Welcome to this episode of the Joyful Scaling Podcast. I am here with the one and only Rebecca Whitman. She's passionate about empowering overworked and overwhelmed women. Okay. Is there anybody listening that is not that? Okay. But she transforms you from that place of burnout. I pray that's not you, but maybe from burnout to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. And that is the name of her podcast. And it's just amazing. But this is only the tip of the iceberg, okay? Because Rebecca is an award-winning entrepreneur. She was named the Life Coach of the Year by the International Association of Top Professionals. She was rated among the top 7 entrepreneurs to watch in 2023 by LA Weekly. And she found herself in the top 10 most inspiring female entrepreneurs by Modern Luxury Miami. And she was recently featured in New York Weekly. So we're going to talk about how she's getting all these media wins, right? But in addition to being an amazing coach and podcaster, Rebecca is the best-selling author of 3 business mindset books. So let's welcome her to the show. Hello.
Oh my God. Thank you for having me on the show, Judy. It's so great to have you to connect again. I know you were on my Balanced, Beautiful, and Abundant show, and you were such an amazing guest. So I'm just so happy to be on your show.
Well, thank you. And you mentioned before we hit record that the reason this is delayed is because of my back and other ailments. So I just praise God that we have this opportunity. So I
Yes.
love if you could just give us this background of how your entrepreneurial journey began, and then we'll talk more about how it's like blown up. But take us back to the beginning.
So it's funny. The beginning was I moved to LA to become an actress. I didn't move here to become an entrepreneur. I had retired from network marketing. So I thought I was like going to be an actress. And I had small parts on huge shows like Friends, CSI, and 24.
No
And
way.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
I never did get that big break. And I found myself in the children's acting school business, which I really enjoy because I don't have kids of my own. I was the director of admissions and I still am a couple days a week. And because I love kids and I love the performing arts. And while the kids were at school, I was studying with great thought leaders and learning about the law of attraction through Michael Beckwith, Louise Hay, Esther Hicks, Wayne Dyer. And I started applying that to my job at the kids acting school. I began making 6 figures working part-time. I didn't apply it so successfully to my love life. And I had the habit of going for emotionally unavailable narcissistic men. I married one. He didn't change. We all know that story. And 3 years after marriage, I filed for divorce. As my marriage was painfully unraveling, my dad was dying in a nursing home back in Ohio. And in one of my last conversations, he asked me to write a book, and I had no idea what I would write about. And a few months later, my marriage was dissolved. My dad had passed, and I was sitting across the desk from my financial planner. He asked me, "How did you have your best financial year ever, the same year you lost your dad in your marriage? And I think you should write a book." So I wrote a book called How to Make a 6-Figure Income Working Part-Time. And in that book, I divide life into the 7 key areas, which I call 7 pillars of abundance. I started doing book launch parties, which turn into coaching classes, which turn into programs. And now I empower women to go from burned out to balanced, beautiful, and abundant.
So good. Oh, wow. So can you give us that book? I'm going to have a link. Make sure if you would send me the link where the latest
Yes.
that. So tell me how I guess maybe let's quickly go into these 7
Yeah.
pillars of abundance to give us an idea, because when I think about going through a divorce, and I've done that and it was hard, even when you think it's after prayerful, consideration, even though it's right, you feel like it's right, it's still hard. And I remember when I lost my dad, that just threw me for a loop. So how did you keep it together? And then let's jump into those 7 pillars.
It was really, really challenging. My dad's funeral was on a Wednesday and my divorce was finalized on a Friday.
Mm.
And my ex-husband sued me for spousal support after only 3 years of marriage. And being that you're also an attorney, I'm sure you can appreciate like how crazy that is. But
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really stressful. What kept me together is the first pillar of the 7 pillars of abundance, which I'm sure your audience will appreciate, and that's spirituality, my connection with God. I have a morning practice, which includes writing in a God journal. And I found this beautiful journal at a 12-step group when I was a teenager. And this woman who I now think is an angel, her name was Janet. She sat right next to me. It was in this beautiful old church in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I still remember it like it was yesterday. And she said, I'm going to show you how to write in a God journal. And she gave me these beautiful journal prompts. And I started immediately practicing that journal. And a few years later, I added my own journal prompts. Now I've been doing this for 30 years. And in that journal, there's really great questions like, what is God doing for me? What I couldn't do for myself?
Mm,
And how what I think is the worst thing that is happening is actually the best thing. And what that journal does is it helps me really see the bigger picture, and it deepens my faith that all things are really working together for my highest good, whether
mm,
it seems that way or not. And I'm actually going to give this as a gift to your listeners because this abundance journal absolutely helped me get through the divorce. And it also helped me on my entrepreneurial journey, just learn from what I'm doing, learn from great entrepreneurs like yourself, Judy. And so that's the first pillar is spirituality. And the second pillar, which also helped me get through that dark time, is fitness, really channeling my frustration and my sadness into my workout was a huge help. And I know when you work out, you get serotonin and dopamine and endorphins and the same uh, cocktail that you get from taking psychoactive drugs. I get that, and you can get that from working out. So that was the second way I got through it. The third pillar is emotions, and that is just being very aware of my self-talk. And when I was in fear, changing that to faith. When I was in fear, changing that to love. And when I was in scarcity, there's not enough money, there's not enough time, there's not enough men, whatever it is, there's not enough clients, switching that to abundance. There's plenty of time, there's plenty of money, there's another husband waiting out there for me, and there's enough abundance. The next pillar is romance. And romance is that area was pummeled, right? So you don't
mm.
have all 7 pillars of abundance at a level 10 at all times. But I had faith that the right husband was out there for me. The next pillar of abundance is mental mindset. It's something that I've continued to work on in the nooks and crannies of my day, listening to wonderful podcasts like yours, listening to Audible and YouTube, and just doing that mindset work when I'm driving, when I'm doing household chores, when I'm walking my dog. The next pillar is social, and that is community. And I am in the 12-step community, and the women in those groups really carried me through my divorce. Having that tribe of women who lift me up, and many of them had been through divorces and were happily remarried, and just seeing the women in my life get through that made the biggest difference. And then finally, financial. Now, I didn't think I was going to have my best financial year ever that same year that I lost my dad in my marriage. But because I was so deliberate with my morning practice and my workouts and being in community and, keeping an eye on my words and my thoughts and keeping them faith-based, not fear-based, I ended up having the best financial year ever. And finance is the last piece of the puzzle that clicks into place. People think I'll just work really hard and I'll make a ton of money. Then I'll hire a personal trainer. I'll look really hot. I'll attract my husband. We'll go on spiritual retreats and we'll socialize with other couples and we'll do our mindset work. But that is not how it worked for me. The last piece of the puzzle to click into place was financial.
Yeah. Gosh, that's just so good. And I love the emphasis on understanding that Romans 8:28 is a real thing. That is a truth of the Lord, that all things are working for our good and for the Lord's
Yes.
glory. So
Yes.
Yeah, even when things like the death of a father, or God forbid any other loss. I mean, it's just like a divorce. It's we really have to keep our eye faced on Christ. Like we have to stay focused on what matters. And I also really appreciate, and I want to emphasize this, that when we when we focus on making the money and working hard to do it, it's tell me if you agree with this, that when you hustle to make your money, you will, number one, never feel like it's enough money. And number two, if that's how you make your first six figures, you'll think that that's how you need to make money always. So you'll always be in this hustle mode. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I agree. Yeah, it's that's what I'm really passionate. My mission is to empower women to go from burned out to balanced, beautiful, and abundant. And the hustle and grind is the predominant culture. It's very male oriented, and women are just not designed to like work themselves to exhaustion and depletion. Women will end up getting sick,
Mhm.
even dying. I mean, it's really crazy when women think that they have to hustle and grind so hard for money. And the way that I teach, and through these 7 pillars, I really teach women to be magnetic and to draw their abundance into them. And that is why I call myself the magnetic abundance mentor, because it doesn't have to be so hard.
It
And
really
I know
doesn't. Yeah,
no, it can be fun, it can be playful, and the more joy and the more spiritually connected we are, the more magnetic we're gonna be, and
mhm,
people are gonna wanna work with us, and they're not even gonna know why. They're just gonna see that light in us and be drawn to us.
absolutely. And for me, and I bet you'll agree, but I want to get your thoughts on it. The more me I am, the woman that the Lord made me to be, and not worrying about my edges and not trying to filter out like and be somebody else. Like the more me I am, the more I will draw out those that God's already chosen to work with me.
Yes, that is true. It's about being authentic
Mhm.
and being vulnerable and just sharing your truth, and the people who resonate with that will find you. I used to be a people pleaser, and I had a coach who said, you know what, leaders are polarizing. You're not supposed to be for everyone. And that was one of my New Year's resolutions when I started my coaching journey, was to be polarizing. And I
Yes.
used to hate when people unsubscribed to my email list or unfriended me. But now I know that's a good thing because I'm being authentic and I'm being a leader, and leaders are polarizing.
Mhm. That is so funny that you say that, because last month in a team meeting, we were reviewing emails and our open rates are through the roof and click throughs are ever increasing. But as that's happening, we're also losing some subscribers, to our list. And I said, every time someone says unsubscribe, I say, brava, God bless, and it's fine. But I remember with you, it's like, oh my gosh, where are they going? No, 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 no. They're qualifying out, and that's okay, because others are really falling in love with you when they see, oh my gosh, I really love what she's about. That's great. All right, I want to transition offline. Before we hit record, I said that I'm blown away by the media attention and awards and recognition that you're getting. So can you help us understand how that is happening, especially as you mentioned, you are your own PR firm? Like, that's astounding.
Thank you. It's funny because my husband is a former A-list Hollywood agent, and he introduced me to a Hollywood publicist, and she was like 5 grand a month. And I was like, wow, I definitely see the value of having publicity, but I'm just starting my coaching business. I don't have an extra 5 grand a month to invest in publicity. So I just decided to be very deliberate about my social media. Every morning, this sounds crazy, but I am like really excited about my brand. So every morning between 7 and 8, I do a power hour where I do it actually in a group of women that I'm also doing a business with, a health and wellness business. And we do all our social media for the day. We have our stories, our reels, we do our posts. I do all that just first thing in the morning. I totally get it out of the way. And I have been really just deliberate about my social media presence, commenting back if anybody ever comments, just commenting on other people's stories. And I just time it out. Okay, I'm going to just comment on other people's stories for 5 minutes. And everything is very structured. And because I have been so deliberate with my social media, my algorithm has grown and grown and grown. And these news outlets and the people who are coming up to me are through my social media. It's really amazing. They're just like, I've noticed your social media. I really like what you're doing.
Mm.
And we want to feature you. And I haven't, and it goes back to being magnetic. I haven't gone out and looked for, okay, like what news outlets are looking for coaches or which news outlets are doing an article this month on entrepreneurs. I haven't done any of that. They've just found me through my social media presence. And that's one of the things I actually love to teach. I have a program called Create Your Six-Figure Side Hustle. And that is part of that is having that social media presence and just being very deliberate. And it goes back to what you're saying about being authentic. There's many times, even now, as recently as yesterday, I went live and there was like between 0 and 5 people listening to my live videos. Sometimes it would be none. It got only up to 5. I mean, a lot of people would be like, wow, that is really discouraging. Only like 0 to 5 people are listening, but I just keep going. And I also know that all the content that I put out on social media is also a library for me. It's a library of my personal growth and my journey, and it'll be a memory one day. And it's also just, for my own spiritual growth and involvement, just to see how far I've come and
Ah,
to detach myself from the results and just keep going and putting myself out there.
okay. I want to zero in because, ladies, that was gold. Okay. You might want to go back and listen again, but I want to highlight some things. Starting from the bottom, detach, or the most recent, detach yourself from the outcome and from the results. It took me so long to get what that was. But when that clicked in 2 years ago, everything changed. And I'm trying to, impart that on not only my podcast listeners, but especially to my clients. And I just interviewed somebody yesterday who had the biggest launch of her career, almost 30 grand,
Oh
when
my
she only
God.
sold 2 people in the entire prior 9 or 10 months. So it's really powerful. But can you, to the person listening saying detached from the outcome, what in the world does that mean? Can you help to kind of flesh that out?
Yeah, I like to say that I am in the action business and God is in the results business. All I can do is have a goal and then take action toward that goal, and then have faith that whoever's supposed to be affected by that, whether just the post makes their day or attracts them to schedule what I call a breakthrough call or, become a client, then that is not my business. That is up to God. But if I don't put myself out there and share with people how I can help them and how I can serve them, then nobody is going to know. And I might have someone out there that I could just completely change their life. But if I'm so quiet that I don't put my message out there, that person's never going to find me.
Amen. Amen. And you know what? I point to the parable of the talents, the person who was given 1 talent and they buried it. And the master, who is God in the parable, he said, "Get away from me, you lazy, wicked servant." And so I'm like, wait a minute. So are we going to hide all these goodness? How, just as you said, how we can help people, we have got to be bold on that. So thank you for that. So again, we have goals, ladies, but when we don't hit them, if we don't hit them, we don't say, woe is me. Uh-oh, maybe this isn't for me. No, because fails happen in the entrepreneurial journey, especially early on, before the wins come. The fail is a part of the natural progression on your way to inevitable success. I mean, no doubt in my mind. So every time you fail, every time I failed in the beginning, I said, okay, I'm 1 step closer to success. So keep going, right? And to that point, I want everyone to listen. here's a woman who has all this acclaim because her heart is in her work. You can see that. And she goes live and 5 people watching. So we need to stop saying, I'm not doing that again, because nobody's watching, because the replays, people are watching. So let's speak to that just for a moment.
Yeah, I am like an instant gratification person, and I understand the point that you just made. When I feel like I fail, I want to quit, but I would like to say, what if there was no failure? Because there is either two things that happen. I either win or I learn.
There you go.
And
That's right.
failure is just learning. It's just absolute learning. And it's just getting data, reevaluating, and learning. So I agree. I think the algorithms have really changed on social media, where it is harder to get story views. It's harder to get live views. It's just more challenging. I don't know if there's more people doing it or if the apps are just changing their algorithms, but I just know that, yeah, people will watch the replay. And even if somebody sees it 3 years from now, like, it doesn't matter. It's out there forever. And if it's good content, and if it's my heart, and if the intention is to help people and inspire them and lift them up, I'm just putting good out into the universe, and something great will come of it in God's time. It's also about trusting divine timing, that it is, starting off as an entrepreneur, it can be a slower climb for some people. We look at the people, overnight success. Most overnight successes take 10 to 15 years.
That's right.
There is no such thing. We hear about them and we're like, oh, I haven't heard of that person, so they must be an overnight success. But they have been, whether it's business work, personal development, spiritual work, people have been putting in the work, and we just don't even see it.
Yeah. Great point. Thank you for that. Last thing I want to emphasize that you said, and I love it, is the structure and the intentionality behind the actions. Like I'm always telling my ladies, look, it's not about the doing, it's really about the being as you're doing. But we do have to do some do here in the entrepreneurial world, because we have to get visible, do our part so that the Lord can do his. So when you talk about being intentional about your social, and here again, can I just be very honest and say that as recently as 18 months ago, I remember saying, I can't just spend 15 minutes a day on each platform. That's not enough. And what would happen is I personally would spend 0, because I would think I would have to spend an hour on each platform. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. So again, it's being structured. So can you walk us through a little bit more specifically on your deliberate plan in that hour, that power hour?
Well, first of all, once you create content, it's there forever. So I repurpose a lot. Like I use a lot of Facebook memories for photos or ideas, and I repurpose old posts. And then once I have content, it only takes me 5 minutes to share it on all the platforms. So once I create a content, let's say it's a reel, I can share that on so many different platforms. I can share that on LinkedIn. I can share that on YouTube. I can share that on Threads. I can share that on Twitter. Like I can share that on Facebook, obviously. So yeah, it's like creating one piece of content and repurposing it. And then just being very deliberate with my power hour and actually using my phone timer. Like, okay, for the next 5 minutes, I'm going to comment on stories. For the next 5 minutes, I'm going to just comment on the news feed, and just kind of hitting all the different areas with my phone timer.
Yeah.
And it just makes the hour go by faster. And I also do it with a group of women. So if you think of like the olden days, women would like make quilts together to make it like, the mundane work seem easier. Where social media can be very boring and mundane and repetitive. So if you do it on a Zoom with an accountability partner or a couple, then it's like, now we're all going to do it together. Now we're all going to comment on our stories. Now we're all going to comment on the algorithm. Now we're all going to do a post. Like it just makes it more fun.
That's so awesome. Okay, so I'm trying to picture that. Is that like in the nature of a co-working session where you're kind of seeing each other do something, and maybe somebody goes, ding, ding, ding. Okay, now we're done with that. Now we're going to go on to something else.
Yeah, somebody is timing it and
Okay.
leading it. Yeah.
I love it. And how many, I'm
Mhm.
just curious, how many women are in your group right now?
I mean, it varies. It could be anywhere from just one other person doing it with me up to 30. It just depends.
That's,
There's a schedule. This is, with my network marketing company, there's a schedule of power hours, kind of just like workout classes, and
yeah.
people just jump in whenever they want to jump in, and somebody is the leader of it. And it has really changed my social media presence, and this is really what has elevated my brand. It's just being very deliberate and doing this. I would say I do at least 5 hours a week of power hours.
I love it. And you mentioned earlier offline about the power of the personal brand and that being, authentically you and having all these major media outlets coming to you. So I'm just curious, you know, what would you say to the person who says, "Oh gosh, I don't even know if I have a brand." Like even just what that means. In other words, I always say to my clients, I want you to think about your best client. And I want you to think about what you want them to know about you, believe about you, think about you, right? As far as what your brand stands for and all that. So I would love your insight in that as to someone out there who needs to build their brand. How would you recommend they do that?
I would ask them to write down all the values that are important to them and narrow it down to 3, and that's what you stand for. Like mine is joy, freedom, and abundance.
Mm,
And so when I am going to share something, I am going to espouse joy, freedom, and abundance. I'm being, like you teach women to create from their beingness. I do too. We be, do, have, not have, do, be. So
amen.
I want to be joyous, free in my expression, and abundant. So find out what your values are through doing a writing exercise, and then talk to your customer or your post or whatever, written or spoken, like you're talking to your ideal client.
Yeah.
Like if you've had an ideal client before, you know how to connect with someone, think about her. And when you're sharing, talk to that one person. Or if you don't have an ideal client yet, who is someone in your life that you have really served and helped through your advice or just being a great friend, and think of that person. And when you just think of one person, it makes it a lot easier to be real and authentic.
Yes, amen. That is huge. That is huge. Think of the one, that best client who just loves you. As soon as they find you, they want to work with you. That's who you're talking to. All right. Well, as we're wrapping up, I'm curious, what's in plans for you for 2024? Like what's going on? What do you have? What are you excited about coming up?
Yeah, well, I am so excited. I start the year off with a complimentary workshop that is so valuable for people. I help people create their goals and all 7 pillars of life and the 7 pillars of abundance. And then I help them craft 21 customized affirmations to make those goals a reality. So I'll be having that workshop in January. So make sure you subscribe to my email list so you get your invite. I'm also going to be doing a retreat with a functional medicine doctor in Los Angeles. We're actually just nailing down our location. It's going to be from burned out to blissed out. And she's going to
Ooh,
cover the nutrition and the health, and I'm going to cover the mindset and the business. And it's just going to be an incredible luxury retreat. And speaking of media, and this again, I am like shocked by this. Like USA Today wants to feature me as one of the top 5 entrepreneurs to watch in 2024, which is like that article
that's
is going to be coming out
wait,
like
wait.
USA
Okay.
Today, like it's crazy.
Okay, wait. So okay, brava, sister. I have been following you for a while and I know you're amazing. And I'm not saying but, and how did really, how do they come to you? Are you saying that
It's
you've never reached out to USA Today anything? That's amazing.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's my social media. Yeah. It's
It's
what I just taught
amazing.
in this interview. Yeah, it's totally My social media, just showing up, being imperfectly perfect and just being real, and my connection to God. I mean, I love that your listeners are spiritual and they're followers of Jesus and all that. It's not me, it's God. All glory goes to him, and just praying every day, just lead me where you need me, show me, who I can serve today, praying to be of maximum service to God and to my fellows. And I really know that that's it. It's not that I'm a super talented business person or entrepreneur. It's being a connection and an open channel for God's love. And
So good.
that
So good.
all glory goes to God. Yeah.
Yeah, I take nothing from you. Okay. So I didn't mean to whatever,
Yeah.
but
No,
just
no,
like,
I
wait a
I
minute,
don't. Yeah.
that's amazing. Okay. And so I just want everybody to listen, and I'm also taking this in. So thank you, Rebecca, that, I'm always about normalizing miraculous results for Christian women in business. And my
Yeah.
clients, they are experiencing breakthrough. But you know what? I realize that I have a little stuck point here, because what you're telling me, like, I'm like shocked that you didn't need to reach out. But then I'm like, well, of course I shouldn't be shocked, because you're walking your faith walk and you're like totally surrendered. So thank you for serving as a beautiful example for me and for my audience today. It's just amazing. So hallelujah.
I like that you ended that with surrender, because surrender is a daily practice, and I take back my will so many times and I get derailed from my faith. And it is a discipline to stay and surrender. It is a daily practice, and that is what I will pray, that I continue to keep surrendering my life and my will every moment of every day. So help me God.
Oh, may it be. And I just want to land on that. We'll end here. Discipline. I think a lot of times as Christians, we don't think about faith or surrender as a discipline. It's just kind of the way I'm supposed to be. Yeah, but are we living it out? I always say, are you living your faith in your business? Like, we need to be intentional and holding all thoughts captive as unto Christ. And if we're thinking as he does, then we have to say, not my will, but yours, Father. And I'm not going to worry if I didn't hit my goal last month, or, if 5 people are watching my lives. That's just so good, Rebecca. Thank you so much for being here, sister. Now, where can my audience, where's the best place for them to plug into you online?
Yeah, so I want to offer that gift. That's going to be my link tree. You can also plug into my fun things that I mentioned. I have great events coming up in 2024 that I want you guys to be a part of. All of that will be in my link tree. I can be found on Instagram, Twitter, Clubhouse, Threads at Rebecca E. Whitman. And you can go to my website, Rebecca Elizabeth Whitman with a Z.com.
Amazing. We will have all of those links in the show notes. Sister, thank you so much for taking time today. God bless.
Thank you. Bye, Judy. Bye, everyone.
All right, ladies, thank you so much for listening. And if you're listening on Apple, and if you have not taken a moment to leave a review, would you please just do that right now? Because the more you do that, the more this message of miraculous results for all Christian women, getting that out there and normalizing it, we're going to be able to get that message far and wide. I think we're hit 52 countries. I want to get to 60 countries, and I need your help. So join the movement, leave a review right now. And by the way, let me know what topics I haven't yet covered, if there are any, because I want to bring it to you. All right. Thanks again. Have a beautiful rest of your day.